is joining us here today. We're going to bring Instagram here in a quick second. We want to thank you, outsiders, for opening that door. We got a very special guest. We are back in Kansas City, Discreet. Not only
Again,
are we back in Kansas City, but we are
it's
back
one
at
of the
the
best places
district
in the world at the
is.
moment.
It is one of the best places
Yes,
in
it
the
is.
world at the moment. The district is, and Q is actually here at the district is next door to me as well. And I just stepped out that way with my loud voice. I didn't have the feedback going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're opening the door for the first time to the We Outside Livecast, let me tell you real quick who we are and what we're about. I am Wonder Mike. You got my brother Discreet hanging out in England. Of course, our special guest for the day, who we're very much going to introduce here in a hot second, Miss Q. The We Outside Livecast is simply an organic, authentic conversation where we get outside, we find people who are similar to us foundationally, who is an entrepreneur, loves music, just somebody who's trying to do something and doing it the right way with that grind and that hustle. And we're going to have a conversation with a person exactly like that today, Miss Q, here in Kansas City. You've been here because truth be told, I discovered you through the relations that I've started to find and my networking that I've started to create here in Kansas City. And once I got to know a little bit more about you and what you do between your blog and you're a tour manager. You just recently finished up a tour manager position
Right.
with a K-pop artist, if I'm not mistaken. The Babylon, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
pronouncing that correctly. So we're definitely gonna be talking a little bit about that as well. But from what I've gotten to know about you, you are certainly one of those people that we love to have outside Q, and that's exactly why I reached out to you. So we
Too right.
thank you very much, Discreet, and I thank you very much for opening that
Yes.
door, joining us outside today. But with that said, I'm going to turn it over to you and really allow you the ability to give a true introduction in your own words for the outsiders that are joining us today and everybody that's going to see this on YouTube once upon a time as well. Let us know who Q is and what you're about and what you do in this beautiful world.
Oh,
Mm,
great. Well, dope. First of all, it's just really great to be on the podcast. So thanks for having me here.
thank
And
you.
anyhow, everybody, my name is Q. All my social media, you'll find me at Q the Blasian Badass. And so there's a reason why I have that name because how I work as an entrepreneur, like at all times, I have to have this badass mentality in the work that I do, whether I'm the tour manager or whether I'm a content creator. I am literally doing work that requires badassery. I'll just say it that way. That's the best way for me to
I
say it
like
right
it.
now.
I like it.
Mm,
But yeah, definitely, I love to do that. I do a lot of like tour and production work, artist management, and a lot of social media work. So I definitely do a lot of content creating for different artists and creatives here in Kansas City and in other states as well. So that's a little bit about me so far.
There you go. I love it. So I know, getting to know you, you wear many hats. You wear many
Yeah.
hats. I know you just did that on the tour that you recently came off as a tour manager as well, which again we're definitely going to get into. But talk to me, because I'm very similar to you, Q, in the fact that I got my hands in a bunch of different things. Right? I like
Yeah.
to keep busy. One of my I feel that truly my life purposes in the time that I'm here is to help others reach their goals as well, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that means I got to wear a lot of hats. I'm being directed in every kind of different way. I know how I at least try to balance my life and everything going on in it. But if you could talk to people, kind of, what are some good things that have worked for you in balancing all those different things that you find yourself being a part of?
mm.
Ah, wow. That's a good question. I'd say currently, right now, it's a total failure for balance for me right now because just coming off tour, it threw everything off. I mean, if you've ever been on, if you, anybody out there who has ever been a tour manager or you're working in the artist world, like there is no real balance. And
Mm,
I think even though, like before that, I'll just say what I really was balancing is I had to make sure I had time set aside just for me. So for all my self care, and I did that weekly, always like daily. I always set aside time for just spending time with me, whatever that looked like, and learning how to say no. I mean, say no to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people because
mm,
when you're kind of an entrepreneur who can do a lot of things on the fly and you're pretty good at it, like myself, you get asked to do a lot. And so it's hard to say no, but I had to learn to do that. But then I
yeah.
started switching my mindset, my mentality to what if I didn't really look at life as a balance versus options. And so I'm starting to take a different approach to what balance looks like in my life, whereas I'm looking at what I can and can't do as options, choices that I can choose daily instead of having like a set time, because my life isn't set. I could be on tour one day, I could be at home the next, and then I could be doing another gig another day. And because it's been so up and down, I've had to learn how to work with balance as a flow versus like a schedule. So I think that's the best way for me to say that. But
I
yeah, so
appreciate that.
it's horrible flowing, but it's not horrible.
Mm.
I feel you there. With that said, and forgive me if I missed it, this tour that you just came off, was that your first experience as a tour manager and kind of going through that experience of kind of being on a tour with somebody?
Yeah, so that was my first tour manager run, even though I had like done a lot of, shows and stage work, production work. It's my first time being on the road with an artist. And he's a Korean R&B artist from South Korea. And I loved it. I'm not gonna lie, like I miss it. Like I miss it now. I miss it a lot. And we got along really well. So I think that was one thing that was a plus. I think I got a great artist to work with. And I know that's not everybody's stories. But yeah,
Mhm.
this was my first time being a tour manager.
I love it. So you obviously had a great experience.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one, and this is we outside, we keep it real, and there may not be
Mm-hmm.
one of these, but if there was one thing that you could pick that was maybe not the most favorite part of it, and just the experience as a whole, right? Not necessarily the position of a tour manager, but if you could just pick one, if there is one from all the fun that you had, what's maybe one thing that you're like, you know what? I could do without that if that's something that's in my control, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, I got some already because it's gonna be going on my vlog. For everybody on here, you better start following me because I'm gonna be giving away all the stories, about the tour life with this artist. But I would say right up front was fucking merch bag. I hate the merch.
Yep.
I mean, I love the merch and I hate the merch. It's a love-hate relationship. But we had to take it to every city. You got to unload that. You got to have somebody prepared at each venue to sell the merch for you, and it is just so much work dealing with the merch because you got to
Mm.
track it, and basically it just ends up getting in the way even though it's valuable for the artist. I just
I can
can't stand the
imagine.
merch bag. I hate the merch bag.
You want to get to the nitty gritty of the tour of the.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. I
Well,
could understand that. That would probably. I'd be the same. I think. Oh, not this again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Mm.
so heavy too. Like you gotta take
Yeah.
it, packing that. So many times we wish we could have just left the merch bag in one of the cities,
Mm.
and we talked about it a lot. But
You
can't do
can
that.
you? You
Yeah,
can.
gotta
You
have it.
can. It's got to be done. It's got to be done.
Right, gotta have it. But yeah, it sucks. I'm not gonna lie. That was
Mm.
probably my worst. That's honestly, really, that is the worst.
Yeah.
Majority of the tour was super dope. I mean, even with minor problems here and there, it was an incredible experience.
no, I can appreciate that, and I want to, you said a perfect word that was going to kind of lead me to my next question. Essentially, the experience of it all, right? And I want to talk about because you obviously earlier had mentioned, you've done this before, you've been out there for shows and whatnot, but never you've not been the tour manager, right? So,
Right.
in your experiences, Q, if you could maybe talk, because I get it, right, and I'm going to share the context of my experience, which we kind of briefly talked about already, today earlier, in the sense of like what really goes into the artist being the artist, right? Because I think a lot of people out there in general just think, okay, cool, an artist who's talented at what they do, right? They just go into
Mm-hmm.
a studio, they lay a song down, they just walk out, and that's it.
Right.
Their career's just gonna take off, right? That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
see all the work behind, and like I know that, I get that, right? But it was different for me
Same.
from the strange lands that I got to visit the last 2 days, like seeing video shoots, seeing drop shoots going on, it hits differently, right? Because
Yeah.
most
Exactly.
people that are in the industry have told me, yo, the business is like this. Music industry is 10% music, 90% business, which is
Yes.
essentially what you were talking about to the merch there. So kind of from your background experiences, if you could kind of just share with the outsiders, what that really looks like for an artist, because the people that really know, you don't just go lay a track and that's it. You blew up
Yeah.
overnight and you ain't got to do anything. There's work that goes
Definitely
into
don't
it,
work like
like the merch bag that you were talking about as the tour manager. So if you could, from your viewpoint, being a tour manager and just experiencing things in general that you
Yeah.
have in the past from that vantage point, and what it's really like for an artist on tour, or just kind of in general, if you will, as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's wild. Like I think everybody has this facade of, being on tour is like this great life, but it is nonstop. You're talking, especially for the artists. So the artist is tired, they're preparing, they're singing, they're doing the shows, they have to exert all this energy to, give the people what they want, right? And then on
Yeah.
top of it, you're also got to make sure that you're giving your funders what you want, what they want, and whoever else is invested into the tour. But it's tiresome. I mean, there were so many days where we didn't even eat all day long, or
Mm.
he's like taking protein drinks pretty much all day long until we could eat like at the end of the night. Or myself and then our assistant were realizing, oh, we didn't eat that day. And
Mm.
Hmm.
then you're tired. And honestly, second day of the tour, we were all freaking sick. All of us were sick. So I start the
Ooh.
tour, and the second day we're all sick, like colds. We all have colds. So it's like we're popping this, like the extreme Dayquil and NyQuil. It was wild. And we had a
Mm.
show the next day. We had to leave this one city and go to the other one. He had to perform the next day, and we're just all popping this medicine. And basically for like a whole week we stayed sick. But what can you do? The show goes on, right? You
Yep.
have to
Exactly.
figure it out. And he was drained. I mean, there were just so many times where he would just knock out, and as soon as we got on the planes going from city to city, it's just automatic, we're all going
It's
to sleep.
a learning experience. So.
Yeah, a huge learning experience. Because here's what else I discovered. So even though people pay for the artists to come in and they want to do the tour, they're not always about the artist. So as a tour manager, I have to be about the artist. So I've got
Mm.
to fight for what my artist needs. I've got to make sure I'm providing for all my artists' needs, whether it's cold medicine or certain types of foods or
Mm.
specific drinks. I have to make sure they're taken care of, but then I'm also responsible for the whole tour. And
Yeah.
so
Big
it's
responsibility.
nonstop. It's huge. And
Mm.
even though like you kind of like jump into it, you kind of get used to it, it's still, every city's different. And then on top of it, at least with my artists, then there's interviews that each city wants, or there's photo shoots, and I have to manage and arrange that. And we had
Mm.
to cancel some because we couldn't do them because of schedule, or he was sick.
Yeah.
And people get frustrated because people who are in charge, whether it's somebody managing the artist, they've already made commitments to these
Mm.
people. And I'm sorry, well, who my priority is the artist. And
Yeah.
if he's sick, he can't do that photo shoot, I'm canceling it, because that's my role there. And I
Yeah.
realized that really quick, that it definitely is not, as a tour manager,
Health
is never
comes
about
first.
you.
Mm.
Yeah, the artist comes first. And you
Mm.
have to, because they really, everybody else who funds it, they really don't, I don't want to say they don't care about the artist, but they've turned it over. So
They care
now
about
it's
their
my job.
investment, right? They
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 care
It's,
they
about
there's
their
a
care
lot of
about the
investment.
money
returns.
involved.
Exactly. Just to
Yeah.
keep it real, they care about their investment. And if he's not doing A, B, and C, or she, then they're upset and they're calling me. They're calling
Yeah.
me the tour manager
That's just the
between that.
reality, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Mm.
And it's all the communication. There's so many communication channels you have to be on. And then here's the big ringer. This one. So my artist is Korean, and I don't speak Korean, even though I'm Korean. So I'm Korean American. I'm Korean and
Mm.
black. And so, but I grew up here. So I do not speak my own language. And so we had to use a translator the whole time. So we're translating through Papago, in case anybody wants to know. That was the plug. Like Papago was like the best translator. And we're using a translator, but we developed a way to communicate. And he understands a lot of English and can
Hmm.
speak
Mm.
a lot. But we were able to communicate even through the translator, and yeah,
Awesome.
became really good friends, as a result of being on tour together. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
That's what's up. That's one heck of an experience that not many really get to do. And what's really cool is that you were able to take it. It seems like just from that short, that short experience of going on tour, it seems like you're a person who like really lives in the moment and takes
Hmm.
everything in, right? Which I think is
Yeah,
important because life is
It
about the
is.
journey, right? Not necessarily the
Mm.
destination as they tell us. And
right.
hey, it's been working for me. I told you
That's it.
earlier, Q. I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm just going these days where the universe is sending me, and I'm feeling I should be going, right?
Yep. Oh, I'm with
Um,
you. Yep.
which is a really really cool thing, and that led you to Kansas
Law of
City.
attraction is real.
Man
Yeah.
and manifestation, like
Mm.
real
All
talk.
of
Just
it. Yeah, the
you and I
vibe's got
talk
to be
about that all
right.
the time.
energy. Like you got to be in a space that I think you got to be in a city that really gives you the energy that you need. And you got to
Mm.
surround yourself with the people who are going to give you that energy, whether you're doing work like me, like tour manager or content creator. I don't care what you do. Like if you're
Mhm.
just in a space where you can't get that, I think you're in the wrong space.
Mm.
And you're not going to, I don't think you'll ever like succeed in what you want to do if you're not feeling like the vibes and the energy are working in your favor. So I
Mm.
believe very much in how like the universe sets things up for sure.
No, I agree. I mean, Discreet and I subscribe to that very,
Yeah.
very much. And literally, I'm living proof of that. You're living the proof of that because Discreet, you want to hear something funny, Discreet?
Go on, tell me.
It's fun. It's funny what we learn when we get outside, right? So
Yeah.
Q actually moved to Kansas City from Colorado.
Yep, from
That's
Denver.
crazy.
Yeah.
No
So
way.
and
Yep.
Q, correct me if I'm wrong. You've been here about a year, give or take. Now,
Little
is
about
that
a year
right?
and a half now. Year and a half. Yeah.
Okay. And I want to speak on that real quick because everything that you just said, as far as feeling the vibrancy, the frequency of an area, a town, a city, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it. We drove out here randomly in June. I shared that briefly with you, Discreet. You know the story of how I am
Yeah.
here, that I am today, like just
Oh,
on a whim, right? And literally, like as soon as the car got into Kansas City back in June, I was like, yo, there's a vibe here. There's a
You're like,
vibe.
this your spot, right?
For real. And then like that was on a Sunday that we got in, but then Monday we got to go experience soul sessions down at obviously the historic jazz district on 18th and Vine. I told my wife that night when we were there, I said, yo, I kid you not. I said, this is the first time that I felt home and comforted in a sense of home since I left my place of origin, Bridgeport, Connecticut, back in 2011.
that
That
is
spoke
awesome.
it spoke volumes. And even
Mm.
Chelsea, my wife, she's an artist. She's working on becoming a tattoo artist as well. So vibe and culture and those frequencies of creativity is very important for her as well. And just
Mm.
to be driving around the city here and seeing the architecture and her just being like, oh my God, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is your experience? It seems like it's been pretty good in the year and a half so far, but if you could
Yeah.
let us know kind of what that experience was like, what led you to KC, and what's that experience been for you in the year plus that you've been here so far, as far as that vibe that you've been talking about.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, let me clarify. That vibe has probably been more recent. When I
Okay.
first got here, I came out here. One, I just needed a new change, and I'm like
Hmm.
that. Like if I need something new happening in my life. I need to just change up the scenery or whatever. I'll just up and move to a city. Like that's kind of
Mm.
like how I've always been.
Hmm.
But I also was leaving Denver because I just got tired of everything that I was doing there, and I was just bored. I guess that's probably the best way to say it. And then two, leaving just I would say leaving some relationships behind that need to be left behind. That's another
Mm.
great way to say it. So, you
Hmm.
just leave and you start all over. But I came out here only on a borrowed $500. And I had just like paid for my apartment, rent, first month's rent. I came out and started becoming an entrepreneur, like literally getting paid to do social media content, creating work. And that was only going to be $1,000 a month. And so I came out here on basically just by faith, and trying to figure things out. But at first, it was like a struggle. And I mean, because I'm starting my entrepreneurial journey, and then I'm out here by myself, and I have friends here, but I just still didn't know the city very well. You're talking moving from a big city to a smaller city. The
Hmm.
vibe is totally different. So at first, I was not feeling this place. Like I was like, I might move somewhere else. And I was thinking about moving to Seattle, but then I didn't have Seattle money. And I was like, I
Right.
can
It's
afford to live
crazy
here.
stupid up there. It's crazy stupid
Right.
up there.
I was like, I can afford to be here. And luckily, my friends had let me borrow some money and just to at least get food. And there were so many, I would say the first 6 months of being here, there were times I really just didn't even know if I was going to pay my rent. I'm living off like a bag of rice, and sometimes I could get meat with that, and
Hmm.
other times I could not. And I was used to a life where I had money because I was working, honestly, in Denver. I was working in the nonprofit world, but doing
Hmm.
a lot of events and things like that for the nonprofit scene.
Mm.
And so, you're used to having steady money coming in, and then it's
Of
all of a sudden,
course.
okay, I'm going to just drop everything and become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I was living off, like I said, bag of rice, pretty much bag of rice. And if I could get fresh vegetables sometimes or fresh like fruit, I was so thankful. And it just like turned my perspective. I realized when I came out here how much I wasted money
Mm.
wise. Just you know how you go out, you know you got money coming in, you're gonna buy the random
Hmm.
snacks and everything else. Whereas here I couldn't do that. Like I had to figure out I can't buy that or I can't afford that. And I just stayed in my
Budget.
apartment. Yeah, I just stayed there creating content. I didn't even want to go out and get tempted to like go to the grocery store and buy what I could not, at first. Like it was kind of that whole transition that I had to change from. And then as I got used to being out here, I started meeting more people. And, with the content creating that I do, people love my work. And I started connecting more, which was how I met Joe and others out here and just started really getting myself out there more, being
Mm.
at events because I would have to go do an event for content creating and then just connecting with other creatives. And I finally, found my space in the creative scene here and being with other creators and especially like photographers and videographers and just starting to like feel that vibe finally. That's why I
Mm.
said the first 6 months, it was not as major struggle, but the
You
whole
just keep
first
believing
year.
in yourself, and
Oh
then you've got
yeah.
to where you are.
Yeah. I was like, I did this, so I'm not giving up. Even though I got
Mm.
tempted, you know how like when you're broke, you're an entrepreneur, you start looking on like Indeed and
Oh
LinkedIn for
yes.
jobs. You're
Yep.
like, oh,
Mm.
I could apply for that job. But then it's like, no, you're determined, you did this, and you don't want to work for somebody else. Like I got
Mm.
tired of that because I'm giving away all my gems to people who don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to
Mm.
take my work somewhere else. So I'd say the whole first year for me was really an up and down struggle. But
Yeah.
the last, 6 months or so, it's been really good. Like, now it's been great. I've been finally connecting, found some more clients where I'm doing their social media work, and then got this tour manager gig. And then, yeah, I've just been connecting in because even the tour manager gig is bringing me other connections, like other cities now. I'm staying
That's
in
what's
touch with
up.
other promoters and production companies and, meeting other like entertainment companies here. And people are interested in like my social media work or, me helping with like whatever kind of production work they do. So I was like, that's super dope. Like now I'm like
Inspiring.
really like feeling like I'm like kind of in there. At least I
Yes.
feel like that, but I'm getting
You kind of had
paranoid.
like that little bit of a breakthrough or like that door was open. Now maybe it's not just cracked open, but now maybe it's had actually like a jar for you. You can maybe get all the
Right.
fingers in, kind of like peek in, maybe even a little bit, right?
Right. Just a little
Yeah.
I
bit. Yeah.
which I can
It's
appreciate. You sometimes the right people. That's all that's needed, right? Discreet. I
Yeah.
mean, just
yeah. It's an inspiring story, like the fact you came to KC and you struggled like hell, but you kept believing in yourself, and you are where you are now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Even though still
Mm.
being an entrepreneur, you live contract to contract. So there's never steady money.
mm-hmm.
But
Mm.
I've learned how to balance and budget my money better. I like I literally pretty much always eat at home. Like I cook for myself, even though I want to eat out all the time. But
Yeah.
even
Mm.
if I do have money, I still have that mentality right now. But I splurge a little bit here and there, just a little bit.
You've got to treat
No,
yourself now and
Right.
every so
You definitely got
often
to
you
do
have a
that.
little extra something, right? And I want to touch on something that you said because being an entrepreneur myself, Discreet's an entrepreneur also. It
Hmm.
really hit me, Q, when you were talking about moving here, $500, eating the rice, sitting at home in the beginning, and
then.
because I've lived that, right? I've lived that.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that the world of an entrepreneur is just this big fancy world where you
Oh,
just got like endless amounts of money just to be like,
yes.
well, no, people,
It don't work like that.
that's not how it works. Like,
Right.
No.
Right.
before we ended up moving to Colorado, and only very few people know this story. Discreet, you're one of them. 2 years ago, when the market was doing what it does in real estate, after the interest rate started to jump up, like we were sitting in the house where we had like $500,000 of equity in this house, right? And
Hmm.
but then the real estate market happens like it happens, things out of your control happen, and now we're literally sitting there, the family, and it's like, yo, we damn near got no money. Wow, cool, we got a nice house. That the
Mm.
plan was all along to leave and go somewhere, but cool, we got a house and an asset, but how do we tap into this this money and keep keep life going. So literally for like a period
Right.
of like a month and a half or 2 months, and it was around Christmas time. Like we didn't have Christmas this year. Like straight up, we did not have Christmas
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
We did a little something for our daughter, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but like we didn't sell it. Like it was probably one of the most challenging Christmases, especially as a parent, right? That I
Yeah.
by far have ever experienced. But I think the moral of that story, the moral of your story as well, Q, you got to push, because as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
anything, let's be real, anything you do in life, especially as an entrepreneur, things
Yeah.
are not always going to go according to plan. And
That's right.
even if you
Tell
plan
me
for
about
those
it.
scenarios, there's other shit that's going to happen.
That's right. Yeah.
Did you get my
It's
message earlier,
real.
Mike?
Say
About
again,
what happened? Did you get my message earlier about the letters I got?
No, I did not.
Oh, I'll tell you about it later. I've been hit
No,
with some signs.
no, we'll have to talk
It's a
on
bit
that.
of a setback, but you know, like we're talking about now, you get these setbacks,
Yeah.
but you just build again.
That's all it is.
Keep
It's a
going.
road. It's a bump in the road. You got to keep on going. You got to
It's
persevere,
definitely a
because
bump in the road. It
Yep.
literally, its speed cameras got me 3 times in the same place.
Oh my God.
No, I didn't know about it. Everyone's been telling me after it happened. Oh, don't you know about that camera?
Wow.
No. I was like, man, it's just been put up, and I've been caught by it 3 times.
Oh, good God, Discreet. They got you, bro. They got
Yeah,
you.
found out
They
today.
got you. But you know what? You got to keep persevering and keep speeding. I'm kidding. Don't keep speeding, bro. You don't want to get any more tickets, dog.
I will,
But
just not around there, that area.
you
Okay,
have
wait,
to.
but you know, Kansas City is one of the top cities where people speed the most.
Mm.
Really?
If it,
It's
I've
true.
got a rule, right? If there's no police, there's no kids, and there's no cars in front of me, I'm going to go as fast
Right.
as I can.
It's so bad. I know. I do it because I speed. I know I do.
Well, you're right, Discreet. It's like the good old saying, or the good old question: if a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody there to hear it, does it make a sound?
Yeah,
Well, am I
right.
speeding or not speeding? I don't know. Prove it, right?
Right.
But no, you do. You have to keep on persevering and not let
You
that
do.
fear that we experience
Exactly.
kill your dream.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
if you have to know as an entrepreneur, right? Like if you really know what the world's really about as an entrepreneur, you got to know the bottom could fall out. Like I got Ubered.
Always.
I got Ubered this morning by a gentleman who's in real estate. We were chopping it up about real estate. He told me at one point things were so well for him before 2008. He's an older dude. He drives 84 hours for Uber now. Rents a house. At one point, this dude took out a 800. Hear me clearly, outsiders. He took out an $800 million loan from the Lehman Brothers. This is back like pre-2008 when, that bubble burst. If anybody was well in tune enough to know what happened with the real estate market, $800 million. Like he's been fighting with the IRS for the last 14 years trying to work out something. But the IRS, Uncle Sam, don't want to make deals. Discreet. They don't like that in the USA. They just want it. They just want it.
That is wild.
But you know what? What I take from that is the same exact thing that you shared with your story that I share with my story. Here, this dude went and lost $800 million. Homeboy is still fighting with the IRS for 14 years later. And dude's like, and he's an older gentleman. He's definitely of retired age. What would be considered retired age here, right?
Yeah.
And this was me and him. We got a call for when I'm coming back in 2 weeks, bro. Let's get it, bro. And I just loved his attitude because he's like, I've been through this, I've lost it, been through this, I lost it. And you gotta keep pushing,
You
man.
do. You gotta. And that fear kicks in
all the
for
time.
real.
Yes.
Yeah. You get scared. Like there's so many times I was just sitting in my apartment crying and just scared because I just didn't know, even though like I had friends here, like you don't always want to call your friends because I'm like, I already borrowed money from my friends in Denver and I'm still paying them back. Like, because I'm just now kind of in a space where I'm kind of steady.
Sometimes you don't want people to know either how bad you're struggling, do you? You feel like I can get out of this on my own.
Yeah.
I can do this on my own.
Because it's kind of like embarrassing. And then with what I do, like I came out to be an entrepreneur for content creating. So when I tell people I do like social media work, and at the time I was, working with a lot of different like dancers or artists or whatever, it looks glamorous. But I'm like, yo, this is not glamorous work. Like, gathering content, creating content, it takes hours. Like it's so much work.
Oh,
and
yes,
yet it looks great because, you can see like just the highlights, right? But it was so much work, and there were just so many times where I was like, okay, I really need to get some money. Then I wasn't even getting paid all the money I was supposed to get. So I started off this gig with this contract, but they couldn't pay me the amount I was supposed to get every month all the time. And then there
Mm.
were some times where I didn't get paid at all. And that
Mm.
happens a lot as
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. You might not get paid,
Yes.
or someone says, yeah, you know, yo, Q, can you help me out with this, that, or the other? I'm like, yeah, I can help you out. And you're thinking you don't have to have the conversation about getting paid because you kind of have a relationship with this person.
Mm.
But no, not getting paid, no thank you, you know, or,
Yep.
or maybe a thank you. And that's it. And then you're just like, that's it. Like, what do? You can't do anything because you don't have money to pay for a lawyer to sue anybody.
Mhm.
You don't want to sue anybody, even though they signed the contract. That's like a waste of time and energy. But yeah, that fear kicked in a lot. And I was depressed a lot too. Like I was
Yep.
really dealing with a lot of like mental health issues and depression. And I did have some friends that I could lean on here, which was really great. But even
That's good.
still leaning on friends, it was just, it was a lonely world like the first like I said, 6 months to a year. And a lot of people didn't know that because I'm just, my personality is not like that. So in
Mhm.
public, but yeah, I sat home dealing a lot with like depression and mental health and just trying to figure it out. Couldn't afford counseling. I had no insurance. I mean, it's just
Yep.
like wild. Like I literally like went through the ringer, whereas, you know, it's glamorized on being an entrepreneur. Like
Mm.
entrepreneur life is not glam, like it's not glamorous, you know. So I
Mhm.
hope everybody out there hears me. It's like you're gonna work your ass off for nothing at first, literally.
Yep.
You're gonna
Oh,
Yep.
keep working your ass
right.
off for absolutely nothing. But
For
if you
years,
really want to do
sometimes.
this, you can't give up. Like I could not give into, I need a job. I mean, I even contemplated like applying to coffee shops or places. Then I was just like,
What am I
honestly,
doing?
like low key kind of like
No.
embarrassed to think
Yeah.
about that. Like I'm out
Mhm.
here, you know, getting known as a content creator, and then what would happen if they came in and saw me working at a coffee shop?
Somebody.
But
Yep.
then it was like, you know, and because you're trying to make a name for
Fear of
yourself.
people
Yeah, you know, you're
thinking,
trying
what
to
happened?
maintain. Right.
Yeah.
What happened to you?
Yeah.
And I was just like, dang, like I just need things to work out. But you're right. You have like, there's no, basically, there's no like solution to say. All I can say is keep going. Like
Yeah,
I
you've
Yeah.
got
can't
to
give
have
you
that
a
determination.
formula. I can't tell people how to do it. It's different for all of us. But if you just got to live off a bag of rice like I was, that Costco
Yeah.
bag of rice, when I'm used to buying like my expensive like
Yep.
Asian rice and
Do
everything,
it.
then you're gonna fucking live off that Costco bag of rice. Like that's
No,
what
you're
you're gonna
right.
do.
You
You're
gotta do
gonna
what you
pay
gotta
your
do.
rent and then you're gonna live off that rice. And
Yep.
that's it. So that's why I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna keep going. And I was determined. And I feel like I said, I feel like I'm okay, but now I get paranoid. Like, you know, you feel like everything's good. What's coming
Yes.
your way? You know, then you think, okay, something's gonna happen. You
Oh,
know?
that was going to be one of my questions. What have you got lined up for the future? What's next?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hanging on to my clients for social media
Yeah.
work. Seriously, that's it. Like I'm still living like this, everybody. Like I'm
Mm.
still literally living contract to contract. And
But
where
I
I
expect
have clients.
that's a bit of a worry in it. You know, the future. You know,
Yeah,
when is the next thing, or you
it
know, if
is. It is.
you might have a few things lined up, but then you thinking you've got to keep a few things lined up all the time, and
Yes.
like, where's the next one coming from? But yeah, bit of pressure,
Yeah.
but sometimes pressure's good.
Yes, right. That's true. So yeah,
Keep
I'm hanging on
going.
to the clients I have right now and hoping they'll stick with me and right at least clients I have worked with for social media work. They do love my work. So at least I'm thankful for that. But and I'd love to do another tour gig for sure. Like I'm talking about that possibly next year with the same, you know, company. So we'll
Awesome.
see. You know,
That'd be
I
cool.
definitely would love to do that. And like I said, I just met some more people, you know, with these entertainment companies. And some people are like, they're like,
Um,
hey, we're gonna hit you up. You know, we might need like a stage manager or whatever they need. I'm like, yeah, I got you. Like keep my name, keep my number, and make sure you
Yep.
contact me. Cause I mean, at the end of the day, I know what I bring to the table and I know how dope I am at what I do. And that's
confident.
another thing as an entrepreneur. You have to be confident. Like
Yeah.
Yep.
you have to maintain that confidence. Like if you can't, and it's networking. It's all about who you know.
Yes.
Like it's all about who you know. I don't care how many skills, I don't care how long you've been doing something. I mean, look at me, tour manager. I didn't do tour manager before. that job dropped into my lap, literally. And I was actually originally doing this artist's social media. I was hired to do his social media. And then they needed a last
Okay.
minute tour manager to fill
Okay.
in because the other tour manager had to leave the tour early. And she knows that she can trust me. So she was like, hey, I need someone to step in at the last minute. I know you know all production work and everything else, and you know how to talk to people at venues. And she's like, would you fill in? And I was like, yeah, I'll fill in, but I don't speak Korean. She's like, you could do translators. I know you guys will be fine. And he knows like a lot of English. And so I was like, okay, dope, I'll do it. And I just said yes. Next thing I know, I'm like going on tour and
That's what's
successful.
up.
And he even said, he's like, Q, he's like, you are literally the best. Like, you're the best. He's like, I only like working with you. And he just said, you're absolutely the best tour manager. And now actually I'm managing him from the US side. So now I'm
That's
taking on artist management with him, you know.
And
So yeah.
I
So I
expect
took
at
that,
some
yeah.
point he's
that's
gonna
dope.
put your name forward to other artists. That's bound to
Right.
happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. That's what
Yeah.
I'm hoping for. So yeah, so that's pretty dope too. So now I'm helping him, you know, working on collaborations and music from this end with Joe Black and others.
Awesome.
And yeah, so that's yeah, like I said, it just dropped into my lap. It was one of those things, right place, right time, no experience. It just happened. It's wild.
I
It's
reckon that's the
it is.
that was literally written in the stars for you. Like all the hard
Yes.
work, it was just meant to be.
Right?
Well,
It
think
totally
about it.
was.
Think
Yeah.
about it. You had mentioned earlier we were talking about getting that door cracked open, right? And that
Yeah.
door was, cracked up before you were doing social media, and then it's like, yo, tour manager. So it got a little ajar. Now, Q, it sounds like to me, being, an artist management, you got your fingers wrapped around that door, like being able to kind of maybe have a little bit more, what's the best way to put it? Have a little bit more control of how that door moves now. You know what I
Yeah.
Leverage.
mean? And that's a
Yeah.
beautiful example of the networking that you talked about, building that trust and that reputation,
Mhm.
excuse me, right? Because
Yep.
I think this is very much worth noting for me, right? You had never done tour managing before, right? But you
Yes.
had the
Right.
trust, your reputation preceded you with the right person or persons that was
Mhm.
like, yo, I'm confident that Q could do this. And
Right.
sure enough, look what it's led to. So I think, the other thing that I take about, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I was discreet. I told you this yesterday and today, bro. Like
Mhm.
yesterday and today, where I've been, I was like, it was like my best Christmas ever. Like there's no
Yeah.
Christmas as a kid that can top what I've experienced the last 2 days. And but at the same time, kind of like you were alluding to, Q, in the right scenarios, yes, maybe you let that energy out, right? But in certain
Yeah.
scenarios, you got to act like you've been there before, right? Because
Yes.
that's
Yes.
the entrepreneur,
Yes.
that's the true professional.
That is.
Because
Yep.
How you
it
do it.
gives off that sense that, okay, whether this person I know in the background is excited about being here or not, they're a professional. And at the end of the day, when you're talking about tours and music and these
Yep.
people need to be supported by professionals and who could keep those emotions, whether it's a happy energy, a dark energy, a negative energy. You've got to
Yep.
be able to keep that in check, because we know, it seems like, I'm probably sure you know this, but the communication process for us as humans, 55% of the process is nonverbal.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
nonverbal.
Yes. Yep.
Exactly.
So you're going to give that energy off one way or the other.
Yep.
And if you want to be doing those things with that level of people, you got to be able to play at a mindset of being at that level
That's
as well.
right. You definitely
And
do,
bro, I'll
especially
tell
as
you
a
something,
woman.
Mike, you are
Yeah,
professional in like everything you do, but when you end
I
up at
appreciate
Striking Studios, you're going to be a little bit knocked sideways, right? That's just natural.
Mhm.
yes, but I
Yeah.
didn't let anybody know. I
No,
sat there
exactly.
and I just took it in. I took it in
Yeah.
like I opened the best Christmas present, or the best present in the world
Anyone
has
would
ever
be,
given me.
a little bit starstruck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
Normal
true.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say in this, especially in tour music industry alone, being a female doing this work, like especially taking my artists around to all these cities, like you have to like carry yourself as a boss and not just carry
Mm-hmm.
yourself. You got to be able to back that shit up. So if you can't back it up, like if you're a female that's a traveler and doing tour, or even any production work or stage management, whatever you're doing, if you don't really know what you're doing, you don't know the words, you don't know what's happening, they're gonna know, and you're not gonna be
Oh,
able to get what you need, because we went to some of the venues in some of these cities where they had no clue I was gonna be there, even though I send The advance email, sent the tech writer, the hospi writer, everything is sent, right? Everything's already there. Nobody looked at anything. And then I show up and they're like, I'm like, yeah, I'm Q, the tour manager for Babylon. They're like, okay, but then they didn't communicate with their own staff. So their own staff was like, okay, who are, so I'm like, I got to come and say, well, this is who I am. This is what I need. This is what I got to do. And the last one of the venues, one of the cities, and I won't say the city, but because we're like friends now, but in one of the cities, I literally came in, it was like that. And then I had to come in and seriously tell this what I need this, I need this lighting, I need the mics to sound like this, I need to get this set up, like, because they had no idea. And they started doing everything for me, even though he didn't know what he was supposed to do. Because like his boss didn't communicate with him. And then when someone came in later to help out, the promoter for the venue was finally there, and he said, yeah, see her right there, she knows exactly what she's doing, so whatever she tells you to do it, because you won't get shit on a tour. Like even if you need an extra like speaker monitor, or you need a better mic, they're not going to give you anything willingly. You've got to like know how to get it. And a lot of deals I got on tour really was just from me kind of building that relationship and communicating with them, because there were some of the things that they did for me that were not in the contract. And they just did it because they're like, you're dope. Like, I could tell you're a boss and everything. So you know what you're doing. So yeah, I got you. And so especially being a female in this industry and doing this kind of work, yeah, you're going to get walked all over on, and you won't get anything done. And then you're going to let your artist down. And I was like, yeah, I refuse to let that happen. Even in the content creating world too. I'm like, there's not a lot of like female content creators around here that can do the type of content I do. Like I do literally like a lot of like live events and really good stuff, right? But when you're one of the few, you got to like pave this way, and you got to make sure people know and remember you, and they understand that you're that woman, you're that female that's not going to take their shit. But you're not coming off rude either. They respect me, which has been really good, because reputation is everything in this industry, especially for the women, man, especially for the women. I'm just gonna say it like that.
Yeah, it's true.
No, it's true, because you're treated differently. I mean, my good brother, his wife is very good at hair and makeup, and she gets on a lot of movie sets and music videos, shoots and stuff like that. And just like 2 weeks ago, she was telling my brother, her husband, she's like, man, she's like, you know what? She's like, if I actually told you what happens on these sets and the way I get treated, she's like, you wouldn't let me go to work. So you got to be able to deal with it, but also like throw it back them in a way where it's like not affecting you, even if it is, right? You got to take that bullet, so to speak, swallow your pride in the moment, and you still are, because at the end of the day, we're still a human, right? We know whatever might be happening is just either flat out just not right from human to human, or just flat out not right the way that the industry or business professional relationships work, right? So, real talk, I praise the likes of you and other individuals like Rochelle that have to deal with that, because it's a whole different ballgame. And the sad thing is, and it's facts, it's fucked up. It's not the only industry where it's happening.
I feel like women have got to show that they're not to be fucked with more than men do in that industry. You got to show people and let them, with your body language. You're not playing with me.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. And like, even in, when you're working with a lot of creatives or in that content creating world or in the music industry, there's, of course, you have like the women who it really is all about looks, and, you see them on social media. That's their in all of all. But then there are women like me who we're about our skills, right? We're about our skills and making sure that people understand why we're in this space. Like, I'm here because I deserve to be here. And not only do I deserve to be here, but I'm dope at what I do. So yeah, you're going to need to make space for me. But I always have to prove that. So when like the guys told me in that one venue that I was just talking about, they said, yeah, I knew right away that you were a boss. They're like, I already knew you were a boss. You were not to be fucked with. And all of us said, do what she tells you to do. Mind you, that's like really like cool for me, because that's their venue, right? That's their venue. They didn't have to just kind of like, let me just take charge like that, but they did. And I respected them for that, because they had all talked, and they said, just whatever she tells you to do, just do it. And I was like, okay. And I found this out later after we had gone to the next city, because I kept in touch with them. And they're like, yeah, I'm just going to tell you this right now. We all talked and we already knew what you were about. So we knew that you knew what you were doing. You know this world. And we were like ready to give you whatever you needed. I was like, cool.
And what's dope about that, the comment that I made a few moments ago comes full circle. Whether you had been in that position or not, Q, you walked in there like you had been here before.
Yes.
And people respected that because
that's right.
You were at that level. Like, this is who I am. This is what I'm here for. You're going to give it to in a respectful way, right?
Yeah.
In a respectful way. But in a way where people knew not to be fucking with you, like straight up.
That's
like,
right.
I'm here to do a job. Help me do my job, because at the end of the day, we're all looking to do the same thing tonight.
Exactly.
Put on
That's
the
right.
best show possible.
Yep. We want to have a good show and we want everybody to look good. So let's make it happen. But you're right.
Yeah,
it is. It's like a hard balance, but you got to figure it out. Because I've even had people reaching out because I'm just starting my vlog series on life as a tour manager with my artists. And there was another girl that reached out and said she wants to try and do like tour management work. And I just told her, she, has any questions or needs any more help to let me know. But even too, I told her it's a lot of work. Like this is not glamorous, even though my vlog is going to kind of make it look, it's a vlog, you know what I'm saying? So I'll put so much on there that's not so great, but not everything. But
I always say to Mike, you've got to have passion. If you haven't got passion, at some point, something's going to make you go, oh, I can't be bothered with this.
Yes.
Something will stop you if you haven't got the passion.
That's right.
Well, you're right, Discreet. And, talking about content creation, like we started the conversation off with earlier, Q, a lot of people see, all right, cool. This is a dope 15-second reel. This is a dope 30-second reel or post or whatever. Yet people don't know literally that 15 or 30 seconds possibly took closer to an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending what you were looking to do. Like, because like, for me, like I'll sometimes, depending what I want for a message on my social media to go out, I might be using a CapCut, a TikTok, and like a Canva, and like combining the best three things that I like from them to make this one thing. And so you're copying and pasting, and it gets to be wild. So like there is all that time. And that's exactly why I brought up that question about, what you experience as a tour manager, seeing the artist behind the scenes other than just being out in the booth, right? Because it's the same thing. We as content creators as well, we're artists. We're creating something that did not exist before. And that is essentially the foundational definition of art and creation.
Sometimes all that exporting and uploading, sometimes it takes fucking hours.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Or it doesn't, or the caption doesn't load, don't get me started with Instagram. Like, or it loads twice. Then I gotta delete it from like my client's page. And it's just like, oh shit. Like, I hope they didn't see that. Everything. There's so many like glitches you have to deal with. All the problems. Like, it's wild. Like, it's wild when it comes to content creation. Right.
So
totally.
I think like you, and I'm not going to speak for you. My least favorite thing is the timing that goes into the content creation, right? But I appreciate the process as well, right? What's maybe your least favorite thing about content creation?
Mine?
If you have one,
it's the time. It really is the time, because sometimes I can kick out content in like a minute or less, but then there are other times where it's taking hours when it's something I really can vision and I want it done right. It takes hours and it drains me. So it's time. It's definitely time involved for me too, because I love gathering the content. And that's another thing. Not only was I the tour manager, I was also the content creator. So I was getting, triple duty. I got him on stage, got him set. My girl is over there running the lyrics for the prompter, and then I'm gathering content during his set. And he had a specific way he likes his content. So I had to make sure, but I have my way too. So I gathered both, but I'm getting the content and plus like making sure he's good, checking everything, make sure he's got water. Like, it's just a whole thing. But yeah, I'd say my least favorite is definitely time with that, time and creating content. I hate it. I like to get things done quick and fast as much as possible. Quick, fast, and good.
Want it done right now.
I'm with you too, because you're right. Sometimes you'll have something that, a minute, you're like, this only took me a minute and it's fucking dope, right? But then you have other times, sometimes you start to go to create something. You maybe have something in your mind, again, like an artist who's doing a painting or tattoo or putting a track together, whatever. And then you're just...
I'll tell you something that happened to me the other day, Mike. I was uploading that latest DJ set I done on YouTube, right? And I was uploading something to put on, to do the editing, right? And I went out to my shed while it was uploading, and it was taking ages. I lost connection, and it had to start again. And I was on about 80.
I hate that.
Honestly, it took about 40 minutes to get that far, and I was like, no way. And I was in a battle. I was having to go to bed soon. It was like, oh.
That's frustrating. That is
But that's my own fault. I shouldn't have gone outside and lose connection with my internet.
Yeah,
Idiot.
It is. It's wild.
Oh, golly.
Yeah.
Golly.
And I teach people too about content creation. Like I do workshops and stuff like that too. And in my workshop, I'll teach people how to create a reel within that workshop, right? Really fast. And you'd be amazed at how many people just really don't know how to do it. And all ages, like everybody assumes the youth know how to do all this, but they don't, and a lot of them just have no clue. So I'm teaching, when I teach about it, it also makes me value what I do more again, because I know that they're getting something that they need. And I have to realize, like, a lot of people don't know how to do this, even though I assume a lot of people know how to create a TikTok or create a reel or something like that.
No.
So yeah.
A lot of people don't.
Yeah. I mean, because anybody could just take a video and post it, right? But is that really a reel? Like a reel is, something that it's I guess it's the perception, right? It's the perception of people, because again, but even to that point, though, it's like, well, now I have this video that's 90 seconds or less for a reel. Well, how do I actually get it uploaded now to a social media, right? So there's levels to the thing. And I've found, again, everybody's different. The best way, because I'm going to throw this question, specific question to you that I'm coming up with, is like, I find everything, excuse me, whether it's working with DaVinci Resolve on the video editing side, or I let Discreet do all the beats. I'll help on maybe some of the production of putting a track together, for example.
Yeah.
But I've found just going into, whether it's a software or a program, it's a hardware, whatever the case is, just immersing myself. Not necessarily with any intent either, right? Let me just take some random set of photos, pictures, videos, and let me just play around and maybe try and create something new, a new reel, a new post, a new whatever. What was your experience, Q, in the background leading up to your content, getting into the content creation world? Or is that something that you're just like, hey, you know what, I want to do this, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do in order to learn how to be successful at this, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually get asked this question a lot. And like a lot of people, it did start during COVID. So during COVID, I just started diving deeper into my social media. But then I started downloading a bunch of these content creating apps and using them.
Okay.
And I dive deep into them. So I use several content creating apps to create content for my clients and for me. And I have a couple that are really like go-tos for me all the time. But I started just getting more into it. And then I started searching more and doing more research on social media, looking at other content creators, seeing what they're doing, and then started realizing, like, of course, everybody has a story and you want to get your story out there. But I started going that route. And then I went this whole like mindset route, because I'm really big on how everything we do in life is a mindset. And I love doing a lot of motivational stuff. But I do that with my artists. So like, even my artist now with Babylon, like, he said, yes, you're my mentor, you're my life coach, you're my manager. He said, and I need you for all of that. He said, I need you, because I have to like help encourage him. And then I work with a couple other artists on Instagram, just helping them through working on their mindset in the music industry. And I started realizing how valuable that was. And I started doing more work on social media. Then that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and I want to get paid to do social media work. And that's why I moved out here. So once again, it was one of those things. I'm coming out of nonprofit and event, kind of nonprofit event work and everything, and youth work. So I did a lot of work at this nonprofit for youth, and then jumped right into social media as an entrepreneur and said, I want to get paid for this out, and then moved out here. So it was like a wild turn of events, but I love creating content. I love it just as much as I love like tour manager, as much as I love like doing production work, I like to I love to create. I'm a creative by nature. I love to create. And but now my mentality with social media, you go through that time where it's like, it's got to be aesthetically pleasing, right? Or you got to have everything perfect. I'm in a space right now where it's like, fuck it, I'm just going to post, because my vlog series is not going to be perfect. I don't believe in a lot of editing. Like when I do my podcast, like it's just raw as is. So all I tell people is, I'm just going to edit the beginning, like the beginning and end. Whatever you hear in between is what you hear. So if you hear noise in the background, that's what you get. And I like to keep it more real like that. And I realize, like on this tour, nobody really cares about you being perfect or even looking perfect. I mean, so many times, like my artists, I'm just waking up, or he's just waking up, or our assistant, she's just waking up, and we don't care. Like we're just like, okay. And then he wants a video, or we decide to do a video or something. I mean, just all these posts where I haven't been able to do my facial care routine, or, no makeup on. And for the longest time, I was always so worried about that. But now I've just really opened up in a space where, especially with this vlog series that I'm super excited to get up on my social media, is that this is real. Like this is real life. This is whether I'm on tour or whether I'm at home in my apartment, or whether I'm creating content here in Kansas City. It's real life. And I think I'm starting to not care as much about the algorithm, or about when to post, or whether I should do it for 10 seconds or 90 seconds. I don't really give a fuck now. Now for my clients, yes,
can't control
for my clients, I got to control that. But here with me, I don't. Like you can't ever win with the algorithm. Like you just can't. And that's how all these other major creators got big. They never gave a fuck. And they just started posting whatever, and I was like, yeah, that's where I'm at now. That's what I want to do. And I think that's good content. Good content is your realness. Good content is you being you. Good content is allowing you to have a space that's going to work for you. And it's also just kind of sharing the realities of what you deal with on a day-to-day. And you don't have to give all the details. Like you really don't. And I think people think you have to. So when I'm talking with people about their social media, like with clients, they're like, should I do it this way or that way? I always tell them, listen, we're going to do your content the way that needs to be done. That's going to make you look the best, because you're a client. But if you don't want it done that way, we don't have to. Because a lot of clients come to me and they're saying, well, I was told this, or I searched on Google, it should be that. And I tell them, you can do it the way you want to do it. And I like to create content for my clients the way they want the content. And I'll throw in suggestions on what they need. Because I do hate when content is like the same. Like I believe in having a mix of content, like, reels plus, talking videos. Like I like to see a variety of stuff, because, I always put myself in the consumer shoes. So if I'm looking at your content, if it's always just the same thing, I need to switch up. And I realized that with my own content. Like my own content was becoming the same thing, and I was getting bored of my own content. So then when I started doing a few of these vlogs for the tour manager work, I was like, okay, this pops it pops for me. So it's going to pop for somebody else. And even if they don't like it, I don't care. Because this is the series you're going to get. Is my vlog series on being a tour manager.
Well, what I love about that comment that you just said, and again, I think it's important for anybody in any aspect of what they do in their lives. But as an entrepreneur, you have to be aware, but you also have to be self-checking yourself along the way, as right. Because if you keep all those yes people around you as well, people, and you're looking to go for advice, you might have those people, where it's, oh no, it's great, it's great, it's great. But if you can literally sit there and tell yourself about stuff that you're creating is not up to your standard, or you're just like, that's something special. Yeah,
we're always checking ourselves.
And you have to, you have to be, because I think most people know the name Kodak, right? At least if you're old enough, you know the name Kodak, right? Kodak was once upon a time like the biggest picture camera supplier like in the entire world. Kodak is really no more, and even if they are, they're like nowhere close to what they were once upon a time. Because if you're not adapting, I don't think so. Like they might have like small, but they're man, they're going to be more like a mom and pop type of deal now, even if they're still around, than the big conglomerate that they once were, right?
Technology.
And the point there is, you have to And you're right, Discreet. It's technology that was advancing,
them out
right?
of business.
They did not adapt. You have to be able to adapt, and I don't care what you're doing, because eventually something's going to get, whether you want to use the word old or stale or whatever.
Or just
you don't
boring.
have to. You don't necessarily have to completely rebrand yourself, but to your point, Q, you've got to adapt to what else other people are doing, and you've got to
going
keep
on
it fresh.
and what's about to happen.
Yep. Right. You do. Exactly. I agree with you. You totally do you have to adapt, and you got to change. You've got to be willing to change, and looking at change as a positive thing versus a negative thing, that helps you deal with change better. And even in social media, like, you just got to switch it up sometimes. Like, you just got to do something different, because there are other people that are watching you. There are other people that want to know you. And, sometimes the content you've been creating, which was good, it just needs a new twist, and you don't have to rebrand all the time. And I think that rebranding is a choice. You can totally do that. I decided not to really rebrand. I just was like, let me just add this to my page now and just see how it works. And even if it doesn't work, like, I really just don't care now. Like, I don't care if I get no views or like thousands of views. It's okay either way, because I'm sharing something that means a lot to me, and that I've learned something. And I think a lot of people right now are responding to it, because it literally was, like I said, tour manager just dropped in my lap. So I did my first post on how I became a tour manager. And, you just never know what's going to happen. You don't know who you're going to meet. And I think it's that kind of a storyline for me that is going to work well as I talk about this vlog series. Because even going into it, just knowing you had to be a problem solver. Like, I had to problem solve so much on the road, and that takes so much time. And if you don't know how to, like, solve problems already, this is definitely not the life for you at all. Because you are always solving problems as a tour manager or any production work. There's always a problem you got to solve. Something. You got to fix something, change something, make something better. It's crazy.
And sometimes, to the point that you're making, you got to freestyle it, pun intended on that one, as a musician, right? Because sometimes you just got to be ready to drop whatever on a dime or do whatever on a dime, just be okay with that, because there's going to be a lot of things out of your control that are just going to happen, right? That are just going to happen. And I'm going to end up having one more question for you. We're starting to wind down here a little bit. We want to be respectful of your time, and I know Discreet has to get himself to sleep here shortly too, because he is 6 hours ahead of us right now. So we won't keep you too much longer, Discreet. But Discreet, is there anything additional that you either wanted to comment on that we discussed today, or anything? One final question that you wanted to present to Q before we start wrapping up here in a few moments.
Well, earlier on, it was rolling around in my head, and so I'll ask it: what cities are you been to, and what cities are you planning to go to in the future?
Oh, cities I've been to on the tour, or just
cities you've been to on the tour. Yeah.
So we went to Pittsburgh. I was out in Falls Church, out in the DMV area. We went to sort of like LA, Sunnyvale, and San Francisco, and New York was the other one. So when I was touring, those were the cities I went to, and then we came to Kansas City as well. And when it came to Kansas City was when I had my artist was working on music with Joe Black, and
the fact that LA and New York are on that list is just brilliant.
Yes, I love it. So that was really good. But then cities I want to go to, I mean, there's still so many cities I still want to go to, but those were the ones that we went to on tour, that I went to on tour with him.
Oh man,
that's what's up.
So many more to come, I reckon.
I hope so.
Well, we are very much rooting for you, supporting you in that endeavor, Q.
Thank you.
That's a dope experience, and I'm gonna end up leaving you with this one last question. So respectfully, I'm gonna ask you this question. I'm gonna let you answer it, and then it's your show, Q. So however you want to write out the show, we're gonna let you do that right after you respectfully answer this question. Okay. And before I do ask this question to you, I very much want to take the time on behalf of myself, Discreet, and the whole We Outside show here. We sincerely thank you for making the time to be here with us today. And it's even dope whenever we get to do it in person, even though we're in two separate rooms, just because, hey, people, like, we do it for the content and the conversation. So we just split up rooms so we weren't cross-feeding over each other's microphones. But sincerely, we thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And opening that door.
Thank you, Q.
Yes.
I like
So
it.
here's the final question, and I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna let you write it out. What advice, what piece of advice from the experiences that you've had, either in life in general or your recent exposure to being a tour manager, or on top of that, the content creation, just any bit of advice or feedback in general as an entrepreneur with anything that you've done or everything combined, what would you share with the outsiders today from your experiences
Mm.
in life, Q?
That's always a great question. As many times as I've asked that to so many guests that I've podcasted with as well. But I would say currently right now, my best advice to give out is that everything is attainable as long
Mhm.
as you go for it, as long as you actually move forward
Yeah,
and never go backwards. Like once you start going forward, do not go back. I think going back prevents you from reaching into the future that's meant for you. So
definitely.
always keep going. Deal with all the problems, all the issues, all the being broke, whatever comes in between. You're gonna have to deal with it. But if you really want something bad enough, you can have it. Like you have to go for it. And it's totally cliche, but I'm
Oh,
only saying
true
that
though.
now because it really
People
just
don't
happened.
realize.
Yeah.
People don't realize that you can do whatever you want
Yeah.
if you've
Mm-hmm.
got the
Right.
passion and the drive for it. You
Right.
really can. But
Literally,
people
like I
don't
said,
believe it.
yep. Going from living off a bag of rice to I can actually now afford to like buy food I want right now. Like that's a big deal
That's a level up. That's
when
a
you
level up.
have no money really. And like, yeah, like you could buy a brand name versus a generic name food item from the grocery store that you were used to buying like brand names. But yeah, I would just say everything's attainable for you. The question you have to ask yourself is, are you ready to go for it?
Yeah,
So yeah.
exactly that.
That's what's up. That, ladies and gentlemen, outsiders, that was Q. This is Q, the Blazing Badass.
Wonderful
That
woman.
is her handle. I know where to find you on a couple different social media channels, but I
Yes.
guess I will ask one last question. If you could just let all the people know where they can find you with that handle at Q, the Blazing Badass, because everybody's
Yes.
gonna have to come to find you.
Definitely
We're putting it
badass.
out
Absolutely.
there.
Yes. So yes, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Definitely like hit me up. And if you DM me, I will definitely get back to you. Let me know that you heard this on We Out Here, podcast and tune in here. And I'm going to drop it on the Blasian Badass podcast that I
That's
Thank
what's
you,
am
up.
Q.
going to start up again. So make sure
That's what's up.
you follow me for updates.
Man,
Awesome.
we are locked in. We're gonna go do that as soon as we were done here. And if I
Great.
have any trouble finding it, I literally just gotta go walk right through to this door and have you hook me
Exactly.
up with that.
That's
So
right.
thank you. I appreciate that. So, ladies and
All right.
gentlemen, outsiders everywhere, that is the show for today. You can catch this live on our YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook. As Q just mentioned, I'm going to be sending her this raw video as well. So she's going to do what she would like with that because we don't own the show, man. We just show up and have some dope ass conversation here.
I love
That's
Exactly.
it.
it.
I love it.
And of course, it's going to make its way to the We Outside Live podcast YouTube channel as well. So if y'all haven't
Yeah.
subscribed to that yet, go check it out because we outside, baby. Open that door, get cultured. You know what it is. Q, again, thank you so much, so
Thank
very much.
you.
Just I
Appreciate you,
appreciate
Q.
Kamsahamnida.
you. I appreciate you burning the almost midnight oil there over the pot for us, brother. Much
Yeah,
Yes.
appreciated.
it's all right, bro.
Yes. Thank you.
My
All
dog, my dog. Well, I will catch up with you tomorrow, discreet.
right.
And Q, I'm going to catch
Definitely.
up with you
Okay.
here in a few seconds.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right,
Awesome.
y'all
guys.
be well.
Bye.
Peace.
And get out. Get it to you in a way